What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today when I talk to you on SoFi, I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So going into this upcoming week, there's a couple data points that I wanted to point out to you. And especially in SoFi's case, it has been largely just piggybacking off of the broader market, either rallying or pulling back. And that has been a roller coaster, especially considering a lot of analysts and institutions are trying to figure out when the Fed rate cuts are going to be. I feel like that's going to be the next big thing that everyone is just waiting for. So ultimately, Monday is a holiday, so just on an FYI, I'm sure a lot of people already generally knew that. But aside from that though, Wednesday, the FOMC meeting minutes. And so like I said, a lot of people have been trying to digest when the Feds are going to be cutting rates. There's optimism, of course, that it's going to be sooner rather than later. Up until this last week, especially with CPI and PPI coming out, this is where now people are starting to think, well, it might be in the second half of 2024 now. So this meeting minutes is going to give a very good insight to that. Then, of course, on Thursday, there's the initial jobless claims. So that's actually the true data point that kind of saved a massive sell-off last week. So both data points are going to be key, as well as NVIDIA earnings. So that is coming out Wednesday. So Wednesday is going to be a crazy volatile day. And normally what does happen is, especially in my case, every single Monday, I do my weekly trades, or I guess more so options. So I look at SoFi, where I see it's going to be, and I sell some puts, sell some calls and whatever else. But especially with so much volatility on Wednesday, I might actually even just scrap this week. If not, might just do it after NVIDIA earnings, because Wednesday is going to be a crazy volatile day. So once again, not necessarily the best, but hopefully NVIDIA does give some kick-ass future guidance, because 2024 has been all about future guidance. PayPal is a very good example of that, because they did have some pretty kick-ass earnings, but they failed to give very good guidance. So they were a little bit light on that. So in reality, the market just punished them, and there's been many other cases like that. So definitely SoFi is going to be kind of stuck in the wind, and right now SoFi's technicals are getting somewhat exhausted. I'm going to talk on that in a second. But as of late, there hasn't been any recent news. There's been a lot of, videos posted on Instagram and other social medias just on SoFi's marketing in regards to the NBA, especially right here. They do have their All-Star weekend going on, and today's the last day. So it started off on Friday the 16th, and then it's ending today. And so, of course, SoFi is really good at branding and marketing. I definitely got to give them that. So they're really capitalizing on their partnership with the NBA, and rightfully so. So especially based on what Anthony's video did say, like this in turn should really generate a ton of member growth. And I'm sure there could be some alterations that could be done, maybe some incentives potentially. I don't know, maybe. There's a lot of different things that SoFi could really do to increase member growth, but even based on their recent earnings, it's not going to be member growth and whatever else that is one of the biggest revenue generators. It's going to be their tech. So tech component is going to be one of the biggest things for SoFi going into the future. And so yeah, pretty interesting stuff overall. But as far as this upcoming week, it is going to be more so those couple data points and then shorts. So shorts right now have been somewhat tame with SoFi. So they haven't really done all that much over this last week, despite some of the negative data points that's been coming out. On Friday, they did return about 68,000 shares. 16.65% of the free float is being shorted. 151.8 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 1.01%. And then the cost to borrow minimum, whatever broker is doing that, is back at it over the last, I think, 3 consecutive days now. So cost to borrow minimum is negative 0.2%. And I just wanted to kind of break it down on institutions. So a lot of people have been very happy about good old Cathie Woods. So she bought some, I think it was 2 million shares on Thursday, bought quite a lot more on Friday. So under the 𝗪𝗧𝗡 did buy 1.8 million, and then right over here did buy another 249,000, and that was under 𝗪𝗓𝗡. So Cathie is loading the boat. Oddly enough, some people don't like Cathie getting in, versus those same individuals seem to really like this latest 13G that did signal that Vanguard increased their position from roughly, I think it was 79 or 78 million to 81 million. And so in my opinion, of course I'm not a financial advisor, I would much rather have Cathie or a managed fund to actually increase their position in SoFi rather than BlackRock or Vanguard. And my reasoning is BlackRock and Vanguard, a lot of those larger institutions, they buy the stock, usually very volatile stocks, just to lend out. And I know it doesn't seem that profitable because technically right here you do see the cost of borrow average being 1.01%, but regardless, that still is 1% in their pockets. So it's one of those situations that it's like, yeah, Vanguard increasing their position is good, but one caveat or I guess X factor that we do not know is of that 81 million, what is being lent out? And same goes for BlackRock, right? A lot of big institutions do lend out shares, whereas Cathie Woods doesn't. So it's one of those things that I think some people just need to take a step back and realize what the true intentions are of some bigger institutions and why maybe looking at Cathie might be more of a positive thing. Oddly, I think some people just hate on Cathie because of her lackluster 2023 results and just, I guess, her higher than mighty status. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Let me know your thoughts on Cathie. Are you a fan, or are you much rather a fan of big money such as BlackRock, Vanguard increasing their position? What's your thoughts on that? As far as options, as I have been bringing up, there's been a lot more optimism. So on Friday, 5.27 million in calls, 2.1 million in puts. 58% of all the options being done on Friday were optimistic. So this is something I did bring up last week, is the fact that it was going to struggle getting over that 850 mark. And you can tell that based on just looking at the open interest. And so far I've been very accurate when it comes down to support, resistance points, and whatever else. Going into next week, which again is a shorter week, you do see a smaller amount of resistance at the $9 mark. So most likely, big money will not want SoFi to be over $9. Similar to what happened a couple weeks ago, especially around the $8 range, and then last week was $8.50. So looks like this upcoming resistance point is going to be $9. That is relatively small though, so big money and market makers could very much just abandon that depending on data, because if data is very positive and Nvidia hits also a good home run earnings, then you are going to see SoFi really break out. So it's been struggling on quite a few different resistance points, so 828, and even if we zoom in at the 4 hour right here, that 853, it's been struggling with a lot of that. So right now with it at 836, it is trading between this R1 and this R2, so 832 is going to be that next strong support, and then aside from that, $8.53 is going to be that next strong resistance. If it can get above that, then 888. I do feel a lot of the negative momentum is going to carry forward into Tuesday, because there hasn't really been anything coming out over this long weekend so far to really give some optimism to the broader market. So if anything, I do feel like the technicals are going to point towards more so opening negative. I hope I'm wrong about that. But depending on the data on Wednesday, that could give it a nice push up higher. If not, it'll push down. So it's all about the data, as what the Feds even have been saying. Number of retail investors did get out dramatically on Friday, so that was kind of random. Looking at stochastic, you do see a nice bullish sentiment starting to form, so black line above the red, but it is at 45, so it is considered somewhat neutral. So in reality, SoFi's technicals do have a lot more room to go up, but once it does get to probably around the 920 range, this is where stochastic will get very hot, and most likely it will need to consolidate a little bit, but that's depending on positive data, of course. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi in the comments below. Are you like myself? Do you do weekly options? And if so, what's your kind of viewpoint on this upcoming week? And also on a side note, do you think Nvidia is going to have some good earnings, or do you think it's going to be negative? What's your viewpoint? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.